Hey guys, and welcome to this Robocraft Aeroflak Sentinel and Power update. Yes guys, coming later on today, there's some great new changes, including content and some great new mechanics. So we're going to go through the patch notes. As always, we're going to have some gameplay in the background, which I hope you enjoy. If you do, click that like button. Haha. And without further ado, we're going to jump straight into the patch notes. We'll read through and I'll give you my opinions. So, we are getting the Aeroflak Sentinel, a smaller but more versatile version of the larger Aeroflak Guardian, which allows for more freedom of building without being restrained to a single large turret. It has a mass of 1,380, which is below half the weight of the Guardian. It costs 150 CPU, which is exactly half of the Guardian. So, nice new little Aeroflak weapon. Judging from the picture on the thumbnail you saw, it seems to be kind of small and can be mounted sideways, upside down, forwards, you know, however you want to do it, and it has a smaller size and hopefully a smaller hitbox. So, CPU to power. Now this is the important gameplay mechanics, guys. Players now have access to more power with higher CPU robots and less power with lower CPU robots. Robots at 1125 CPU will not see a difference, but higher CPU robots will see an increase and lower CPU robots will see a decrease. At the extreme ends of the spectrum, 1,750 CPU robots will see an increase of 25% power and power regeneration, and 500 CPU robots will see a decrease of 25% power and power regeneration. One of the main benefits of this new mechanic is that low CPU games will be less dominated by larger burst weapons, leading to fewer instant deaths and an overall more enjoyable experience. So guys, what that means is you can still take down the Plasma Goliathan, the Mega Plasma Cannon, and you will still do damage with it in the lower tier games. However, you will not have the same shots that you had. Yes, it will use the same power, but you will have less shots. So using those weapons will still be beneficial, but you'll have to pick your targets. So yeah, no more going down and stomping on the noobs. Not that I've ever done such a thing. Moving on. Rotors are now supported by camera steering controls. So you can now turn your robot using your mouse and tilt it up and down. So that's really cool. I did build a few helis, didn't really work that well, but it means that rotors can now strafe properly, guys. So it's going to be cool. Strafing helis, wow. Camera relative controls can be activated on the garage bays in the robot select screen. Now, that's all well and good, but has anybody noticed that when you build a new robot in a brand new garage, it defaults to camera controls? Which means if you've built an aeroplane and you go into test mode and you try and test it, it will fall to the floor because it is trying to be controlled by the camera. Free Jam, if you're watching, if you could divert it and put it back to keyboard controls as default and mouse controls as an option, that would be awesome, because the amount of tanks that I've used, well, not the tanks, but the amount of aeroplanes that I've built and hovers that haven't actually worked correctly because of the controls. I'll probably remember to change them, but I'm just saying it would be nice if keyboard controls were default. That's my little moan out of the way. Moving on to balance. We have some balance changes, guys. The Aeroflak explosion radius has been reduced by 15%, which is kind of awesome. Means it was the size of a Mega Bay, so it's now 15% smaller than a Mega Bay. So, well, actually radius, so it's 7.5% smaller than a Mega Bay. Yeah, that makes sense, I think. Moving on. Increase the height a robot needs to be away from the ground before Aeroflak triggers against it, which is very handy. Most hovers should find they don't trigger flak anymore, although mega hovers may still do so when at maximum height. So that's really cool. You can now use hovers and not have to duck to the ground every time you saw a flak bot. The laser projectile speed has been increased by 100%. The laser camera shake has been reduced. Laser projectile spread has been reduced. Laser attack rate and DPS has been increased, but damage per shot has been decreased, which ends up in a net buff, guys, which should make the lasers more powerful while also making them feel more satisfying to use. So the attack rate and DPS has gone up, but your damage per shot has gone down, but it basically balances itself out because obviously the fire rate has increased. There is an exact values, guys. There is a table. I will put it up at the top of the screen for you to have a quick look at. If you want to have a read through, you can pause the video and then unpause it and carry on, but we will move straight on. Improvements and changes. Components no longer need to be destroyed to deal damage to a robot. So a 98 CPU mech leg that has lost half of its armour will only be considered as having 49 CPU of health remaining for your health bar. This means that defense stacking with high cost components instead of armour will be less effective. So guys, all those mech leg spam bots and tank tracks on top of mech legs on top of flak cannons and stuff like that is going to no longer be as viable as they were. They have reduced the spread of the laser crosshair HUD elements to better represent the weapon's spread. All game modes are now unlocked at player level 5. Front-facing lasers now have a turning arc of 180 degrees. The power module now increases power regeneration by 25% relative to existing power regeneration as per the CPU to power changes. So basically, guys, regeneration will always be increased from 10 seconds to 8 seconds, but will represent more overall power in higher CPU robots. Improved camera relative controls for hovers while they're upside down to stop them from jittering wildly. So that fixes why some of my hovers didn't work when using camera controls. Perfect. Nominal counts are now referred to as max in-game tooltips to better communicate the purpose of that value. So we went over this in yesterday's video, guys, so I won't continue with the next couple of lines. Basically, each weapon is going to have a maximum now, and any more than the maximum count will just be for redundancy. They have added level of detail meshes for several of the newer weapons and movement components to improve overall frame rate. The Proto Seeker is being politely moved to a more appropriate position in the infantry, right next to the Lommel. Good. Get your auto aim AS down there with the other auto aim AS weapons. Bloody Proto Seekers. Although to be fair, I've been having some fun with some Proto Seekers recently. Modified text in various locations of the game to change CPU to robot CPU. And finally, guys, moving on to a few fixes. They have fixed a bug which caused movement components to be mirrored unevenly when placed directly onto the ground in edit mode. The strange line in the corner of the edit mode garage is no longer there. Rest well, old friend, and I shall put a picture up for you guys to know what I'm on about. Fixed a bug with the rectifier which caused tool robots to be thrown into the air when the rectifying ended. Fixed a few locations in some maps where robots could get stuck and were forced to respawn or die to escape. Identified and fixed a source of frame rate drops caused by the ion distorter. Removed the yellow lines from the bat rudder in the loot crate screen. Fixed a bug which didn't get rid of the extra slot for premium note in the platoon screen if the platoon screen was open when premium was purchased. Fixed a bug which caused the hotkey for loadouts Z to open the loadout screen even when queuing for a battle. That's cool. Fixed an issue with the shadow rendering on the Neptune 2 map. Now, I'm not sure which map is Neptune 2, guys, so something for you lot to discuss in the comments. Let me know down below which map is Neptune 2. Corrected the texture of the football electro shield so that it has the correct hex design instead of the striped design. fixed a bug which sometimes meant the lens flare on the Earth map wasn't visible. And that concludes the patch notes and fixes for the update later on today, guys. So as always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, if you can click the like button for us, like I said at the start, it helps the channel out amazingly. If you've got any comments, questions, messages or suggestions, drop them down below and we'll all have a good discussion about them. But anyway guys, until the next one, see you later.